Hi, we're Steve and Audra. We've been converting a Ford Transit to a tiny home on wheels and doing some traveling along the way. It's now been 1 year, and to celebrate this milestone, we're taking some time to answer questions about van life. Last week, we talked about highlights, hygiene, toilet, food, phone, power, and parking. This episode, we're sharing about insurance, traveling with pets, and advice for someone just getting started or considering van life.
Be easy on yourself. Give yourself the time to learn.
If it's something you're considering, we say do it.
Are you ready for van life? We hope you'll join us for the adventure. So click that subscribe button and come along for the ride.
Auto insurance can be a pretty big topic within the van life community. It certainly was a bit stressful for us. We actually
very stressful.
kind of put things on hold for a little bit because we weren't getting any clear-cut answers. I think it's kind of a relatively new aspect to auto insurers, the whole van life idea.
And when he says we put it on hold, we had started looking for actual vans, and then we kind of realized, we want to make sure we know what we're doing with insurance and how much it's going to cost before we buy the van. So we put the process of looking for a van on hold.
Right. So, we wanted to be upfront with everything because obviously, if we get into an accident, we don't want any hassle. We want to have everything covered as it should be. So, I think our personal opinion is that most agents are probably just, when in doubt, they say no, or they're just not quite trained for it. Seemed to be our experience.
So we called.
We made lots of calls.
Every insurance company we could think of, we called, and most of those calls, the rep would tell us, no, we can't cover it. So after just feeling so frustrated, I think we were watching a video. It was Jared Tochi. He was talking about insurance for his van, and he recommended an agent that's actually up in Washington State. So I emailed her. I think her name is actually Natalie Peters or something. If you need an agent, let me know. She's not who we use, but she was very helpful, and we can recommend her. What she told me that I think is very helpful was that when you're looking to insure your van that you're doing yourself, it's important to use the terminology B-class and to not use the word for the agent when they're looking it up in their system, not conversion, because conversion brings up something else. And so what would happen is these agents would bring it up and then be like, oh no, we can't do that. So it took a while, I think, just to figure out the right kind of insurance. And we finally found help with State Farm, and I think AAA was another one that we basically told them, we're building out the van, we want to insure the extra stuff that we're doing and the van. And those two companies, I think, were the only ones that gave us any option.
Right.
And we went with State Farm because the rate, and also because for just a little bit less, or just a couple dollars extra per month, it would cover like up to $5,000 of improvements or whatever we did. So that was super helpful. And so I think it's just important to know the kind of questions to ask. I think it's important to be honest. There's a lot of people that say they just don't tell their agent what they're doing with their van. I just think that's not a good idea.
I think honesty is the best policy. You don't want to get down the road, again, get into an accident, and then find out you're going to have trouble with your insurance. Insurance is a tricky situation to begin with in the best of circumstances. Don't recommend withholding information, to put it.
And there are some things
lightly.
that can cause issues with coverage. Some of that actually can be the roof deck, and there's some other flags that your agent will be able to tell you that there might be some issues. And I think that's important to know because a lot of people just build all that stuff out and they don't realize that there could be a problem. Something else I think is important is to consider is that there's RV insurance. Currently, our van does not qualify for that because there's different criteria. It depends on the insurance company and also your state. Because I think for us to be able to insure our van as an RV, we have to change the registration to an RV. So the state has a requirement and the insurance company does. So Some of that is like, having running water, having electric, maybe heating or air conditioning. There's different things. So you want to find out the criteria. So once we finish our build, we'll most likely go and change the van to an RV. And then I think insurance will actually probably be a lot cheaper and better coverage.
So in short, do your homework, make your phone calls, and be persistent. Again, if you would like some information about a broker, we can certainly recommend the lady you dealt with.
It was very helpful.
Very, very helpful. Yeah. Anyway.
And whatever, we have a lot of notes from all of our different calls, so we're happy to help however we can with that. So beyond the obvious items that you might think of when you're building a van, I think there's like a few random things that we just thought it'd be worth sharing, of things that we have found to be helpful. I know when I was doing research to start this whole process of getting a van, I kept a list. I would watch YouTube video after YouTube video, and I'd make notes of things that people said. And I'm sure as we get more into sharing the build with you, there'll be some items from that we can share. But right now, as far as items that we've found that are helpful as we're traveling, first of all, we added, as I mentioned before, the roof vent, the Max Air, which has 10 speeds and it pulls air in or out. And then we've added these windows. Ventilation we have found to be hugely important. So it's not like you have to have these two big windows, but I definitely recommend at least the vent, something similar. We do really like the Max Air. Steve, initially when we got the van, he made some little screen inserts for the front windows before we had these bigger windows in, and that has been pretty significant. So definitely something for ventilation, and we have 2 fans, one that we hardly use that's portable, and then one that's attached. And that has been nice just for increasing the airflow and also for white noise when you're somewhere where there is noise to block that out. So definitely recommend that. That's one of the big ones. If you don't have a toilet in your van, I think it's definitely important to have something for emergencies, whatever that might be for you. And maybe a bucket with a bag or whatever, and some toilet paper and hand sanitizer or whatever. I mean, obviously, I guess maybe that's not a no-brainer, but we have found that's pretty important. Wet wipes and hand sanitizer, especially if you don't have running water yet. That's probably another obvious one, but we use them all the time. Something else that's been really handy, Steve happened to pack some rope, some thin rope, I think it's nylon or something, when we first went on our trip, and that has come in handy for several things. One of those is making a clothesline. After you go swimming and you have wet stuff, you gotta dry it somewhere, and if you're driving, you can't just hang it outside the van. So having being able to run the rope across was really helpful. We've used it to secure different things. I think we used that to secure the fridge when we realized we started traveling and the doors were coming open. Bungee cords is something else that's related that's, I think, really helpful. Clothespins, that comes in handy with the clothesline, but also we use it to hold our curtain together in the front. We use it to keep food bags closed, just a whole bunch of different things.
Flashlights are important.
Yeah, very.
And having a bunch on hand.
In different spots of your van.
Right. We've been given flashlights over the years.
Mainly from my dad.
Yeah, your dad's really good at giving us flashlights. So we have quite a few of them. We have some up front, some in the back, some in what we call our garage area. You can never have too many. If you're obviously in the middle of something and you need some light, it can come in very handy.
And maybe you need it if you don't have your van power on, or you just don't want such bright lights or whatever. It just comes in really handy. A few other things, extra bags we found when Steve went riding his bike through a big deep puddle of water. His shoes and socks were completely soaked, so it was nice to have a bag to put that in. And then just for other things, you never know when stuff's going to be wet, or you run into something gross, trash or whatever, or even trash in the van that you need to dispose of. We always have extras, and for grocery shopping, so you can reuse bags, not have to get new ones. Magnets, strong magnets. I don't know how you say it. It's neodyne or neodymium or something. Rare earth magnets.
We started
Oh,
with
gosh.
these little guys. I've probably had this since childhood, I'm guessing. I don't know.
I think we actually bought a pack of those.
Yeah, you know,
when we
you're...
rented, when we got the van to rent, we
Okay.
bought a bunch of those.
So, I mean, these are the real cheapo kind,
They
and
don't do squat.
they're great for
Paper?
refrigerator art. Usually, they'll hold, but
Not for anything else.
this is the bad boy of magnets. This is your... How do you pronounce this?
I don't, neodymium maybe? I don't know. It's rare earth. You can get them now. I ordered some online. You can also get them at Home Depot. I also have a lot of round ones. We use them everywhere, especially when you have a metal body. Now, you know, that'll change if you build out and you cover a lot of the metal.
These are the smaller round ones.
But we use those to like hold our curtains in place, or when it was cold to put up extra.
And you can hear when you put them on how they snap, and it's actually a little difficult to get them off sometimes.
But yeah.
So they do a really good job.
So when it was really cold, we actually used those to put up extra like blankets over the windows. We used them in their window coverings. They're just pretty handy to have. We have learned the hard way that it's good to have a printed map, which we don't actually have yet. We probably need to get like an atlas or something. Because there have been some times when we are driving and we lose our GPS or cell signal, and that is no buena. We've learned that if we put a map with the location and directions in and then lose signal, it'll still work. But if you stop and you have to restart it, you're in trouble. So that was part of the trouble we had when we were up in the mountains and looking. We wanted to do some boondocking. We just couldn't. We couldn't get our map to work.
Cell service obviously is growing and growing and growing, and you might be tempted to think, oh, I'll just always have cell service. But if you get into remote areas or in the mountains, it's not always guaranteed, even in today's world. So it's best to have a backup plan.
And I know some people have WeBoost or other things, but even that always doesn't work. But for us, we keep it simple. But anyway, I think it's just a good idea to have a printed map that you can refer to, even though that's pretty old-fashioned, and we never would have thought about it. Games and books is on my list, because when you're in van life, especially in the winter and it gets dark early, there's only so much you can do. I mean, you can watch some stuff on your electronics, but then that uses power. So we end up playing a lot of games and reading a lot. Oh, and the van gets dirty all the time. So I said having a 12 volt hand vac is handy, or just a little dustpan and broom, just because it, oh my gosh, stuff just gets all over. And then plenty of water, which I guess maybe that's a no-brainer, but you can never have too much water, I feel like, for drinking, for washing things, whatever. So we actually just have lots of extra jugs of water all the time. And then the last thing that I have on the list is a footstool. So I'm not short, but the vans, the seats tend to kind of be up a little bit higher than normal, and I found after riding in the van for a while that it was just more comfortable to have a stool, and I'm actually using it now, that I could have my feet up. And it's nice then, because when we're not driving, I can grab it from the front, put it back here, and when we're sitting, you know, put my feet up, whatever. And so that's just something
We did
handy.
put a swivel seat adapter on the passenger seat, and so that raised that seat, I don't know, maybe 2 inches. So, yeah.
And that's another thing we recommend. Adding a swivel seat. It just kind of changes things, because it makes your living space a little bit bigger, and it's just a more comfortable place to sit. We are not doing the driver's seat just because that involves so much more with the parking brake, things like that, but we like it so far. It's definitely more work to travel with an animal, but I think it's very rewarding. So unfortunately for us, there was a downside to traveling with pets. Some of you have probably seen that we lost our cat this past year.
Ironically enough, it was not when we were in the van. It was when we were at home, and he broke out of our back. We have a screened-in area, and he broke out of there. And I don't know if he just got the taste of exploring because of van life, but he took off, and we unfortunately have not seen him since.
Yeah, I do attribute it to van life and traveling with a cat. Both of we had 2 cats. They would get out occasionally, not breaking out to the screen, but other ways. and they wouldn't go far at all. They would just go like right outside the front door or something,
Right.
and we'd get them and bring them back in.
You could tell they weren't sure what to do once
Right.
they got outside the
Right.
house. They just kind of
Right.
sit right by wherever they got out, whether it was the front door or a window or something.
Right.
They just
So-
kind of chill.
So unfortunately with Fatty, he loved van life, he loved traveling. I took him for walks all the time and he loved it. And he always wanted to go deeper, like into the woods.
He loved it. He loved it to the point where he didn't want to come back into the van.
Right.
Like,
He would actually get mad.
He would get a little testy, like, I want to be outside. You could
Right.
hear him.
And one night when we were traveling, he did get away, but thankfully it was when we were at Steve's brother's place and he went in the backyard. I was able to close the fence door and finally get him. But I do think that was the reason, van life was the reason that we lost him, because he got that sense of adventure and he took off and we've never been able to find him. But when he did travel with us, it was really fun. He loved to sit in the front seat with me. Well, he'd get over with Steve too when he was driving. We tried not to have him do that too much, but he would be in the front with us. He loved looking around. He loved the experience. And even though we've lost him, I'm so thankful for that time. Like, I just think it was so neat. His sister, on the other hand, is quite different.
Quite the opposite.
So-
We could probably leave every door open in this van, and she would. In fact, we did one time. We left the slider open. We both fell asleep.
Not for long, but we did
Yeah,
it
for a few minutes, and she has no interest in an adventure outside of the
Right.
van, to the point where at times we would like to get her some sunlight,
Exercise.
some fresh air. So we'll take her outside, and she just doesn't enjoy it, and she wants to come back in
Right.
the van. So
And when Fatty was still with us, she would go out more and seem to enjoy the walks a little bit more, but now that it's just her, she's even more timid. So, if you were to ask us if we recommend having a cat, I think it's doable, I think it's enjoyable, but I think a lot is going to depend on the personality of your cat. So even though Gray is very different in temperament and like how she does van life, I think it's still fine. I think she does okay with it. She might even enjoy it. But what she tends to do is hide during the day if she thinks people are around, and then at night she's more comfortable. The funny thing is that during the day is when people can't really see in the van and see her, but she'll hide. At night she comes out and she's out with us comfortable and whatever. She wants to be in the front windshield and looking all around. So
we joke that she's a vampire cat
Comes out at
because
night.
she only comes out at night.
right. So when we were getting into van life, before we actually got our van, I guess I'm the researcher. I spent a lot of time researching about van life with cats because I think it's important. I didn't want our cats to, be traumatized or for it not to go well. So in watching, it was hard to find actually videos of people talking about that. I found a few, but what we decided to do, we got leashes and harnesses several months ahead of time, and we slowly started introducing them to that. We would put the harness on, and not the leash, just the harness, for just a short amount of time, and they would kind of get down low and act all funny. But we kept doing that until they got used to it. And then once they got used to the harness, we started putting the leash on, and this was all inside the house or on our back patio area. And so then we put the leash on, and we got them used to walking on the leash. And then the next big thing, and we also introduced them to the van slowly. So when we rented a van, we haven't talked about that actually, we should. We rented a van, and we tried one night with them. We did an overnight to see how they'd do, and they actually did okay. And then once we got our van, we did a couple nights, one just in our driveway with them, then we just went somewhere like close by and did another overnight. And then we took them to the only place we could think of where they're protected, where if they got spooked and ran off and got out of the harness that they'd be okay. We took them to a tennis court because it was all enclosed, and we walked them there, and they actually did pretty well. So we slowly, started introducing them. We did our first trip in the van was kind of short, and we took them with us, and they did okay. We started slowly walking them outside, and they adjusted.
Traveling with pets, has its challenges. With cats in particular, obviously they need a litter box, so that can chew up a little bit of real estate in a very limited amount of square footage.
A good percentage of real estate.
So keep that in mind, how you are going to tackle that issue.
So we have their litter for Gray's litter down under our bed, and then we also are going to try to make sure she's got some spots to be comfortable when she hides. Or maybe we'll try to force her to not hide as much, maybe get her out of her comfort zone a little bit. But we're pretty careful with that and mindful of her. So, but she seems to do all right.
Least favorite thing about traveling in a van, living life in a van. I can't really honestly think of any. I really do enjoy it. And I'm not just saying that. Obviously, the way we have chosen to kind of build out the van over time, it's been a year now, you kind of learn what you need and what you don't need. So one of the things that we definitely need would be, and make life a lot easier, would be a sink with water. Just for like brushing your teeth and being able to wash your hands quickly and wash a few dishes.
Right. It's not a deal breaker, but...
Right. You find other ways of tackling those issues like we mentioned before. But it would be nice to have, which would make your life and the experience just that much more enjoyable. For us, it's coming down the road here shortly. We just purchased a sink. It's sitting in our living room. And so we're going to be installing that here hopefully in the next few weeks.
Yeah, I think we're pretty easy to please. Some people maybe need their van to be built out more with a full bathroom or whatever. Everybody's different. But for us, we were fine with tent camping overall. And
right.
Again, we're pretty simple. So there's really, even if nothing changed and we didn't have a sink, whatever, I think
right.
we'd still enjoy it. So the only other thing I can think of is just the fact that just the challenge with cell signal sometimes. And maybe that's because of our phone and our plan.
Right.
But again, it's not been the end of the world. We've made it work. But eventually, if we're going to spend more time on the road, we probably need to find a better way.
And that's the type of thing, if you absolutely have to have an internet service, there are just gobs of options out there to solve that problem. So
and you can always go
it's certainly not a deal breaker if that's what you need.
And we can always go to like a library or something if we have to. So,
right.
But that's it. I mean, I really do love pretty much everything about van life.
Right. Like we said before, if you enjoy just kind of sitting in your own driveway, it can say a lot about the experience. And that's true for me. I believe it's true for you as well. Just especially after a long day of working in the van, one of the times I enjoy most is just sitting in the van, just enjoying it, just kind of being there and thinking about the checklist of things you need to do for the next day, and it's just fun just to kind of sit and enjoy it.
I think the huge thing is planning. We started planning over a year in advance, researching just van life, the ins and outs. We also spent a lot of time looking at like YouTube videos and different things. I would say, utilize the experience of others on YouTube, Facebook. There's a lot of groups out there, forums, things like that. There's just a lot of knowledge. People are already doing this. Learn from them. There's just so much to learn. Something that we did mention earlier is we would say test drive. If there's a van you think you want, test drive it. And more than that, actually rent it. What we were able to do, I think through Enterprise, we rented a Ford Transit cargo van, a high roof, and we spent 2 nights in it. We did one night in a camp.
1 night in the driveway and one out.
One in the campground, 1 night in the driveway with the cats.
Right.
Just to get an idea of really what it would be like, bare bones, if we would like it or not. And you can't get much worse than the bare bones. We threw a mattress in and, just a few different things. And then we also, before taking the van back, we actually literally taped off like areas of the van as far as like potential layout to think, okay, could this work for us?
Right.
And
I highly recommend it. Highly recommend it. If you are at all in the planning stages of van life and it sounds appealing to you, obviously you're watching this video, is to narrow down your make and model. For us, we definitely knew that we wanted a high roof that I could stand in, again, being almost 6'3", and we liked the look of a Transit, so we again, like Audra said, we went to the dealership and we test drove one, and then take the next step. You may have to invest $200-300 into renting one for a day or two. I would recommend a couple nights, and just rent it. Invest that money. You'll be glad you did. If there are any questions, any doubt in your mind, it'll help answer those questions.
Help you get a feel for it.
Help you get a feel for it. Like Audra just said, throw a mattress in the back and go wherever you want. Go to the nearby park, or take it for a few hour drive wherever.
I think it just helps you think things through, like what you would need
Right.
and just how it would play out reality-wise.
It'll give you a taste for it, and then you
Yeah.
can really say, yeah, you know what, that was a lot of fun. Or you may say, maybe not. Or you might say, you know what, I don't really like this make and model after all, and you may go a different route.
Right.
So well worth the expense.
Right. And I think another important thing before committing to a van is figuring out like what you want, identifying priorities, and thinking through potential floor plan and how you would use it, what it would look like, kind of determining the feasibility of it. Your plan will probably change, but at least to think through and be prepared. And I think another important thing, we're all about saving money, being budget conscious. Figure out the cost involved buying, but also building out. We actually had a full spreadsheet of all of the expenses we thought we'd have by looking at, because there's other van lifers who will put a spreadsheet out there of, how much they spent on hardware and wood and everything. And so we kind of looked at theirs. I researched the actual materials.
We hope to do that too. Right now is probably not the best time to do it because we're right kind of in the middle of our build.
Right.
But once we're kind of done and it's behind us, we
Yeah.
definitely want to share, what the realistic costs
Right.
were involved for us
Right.
in our experience.
Right. So we've tracked everything. So we had a low and a high going into it of what it might look like, and now we're actually recording actual to show kind of where we're off with that. And I would say, before committing to a van, definitely do that. You need to know if you can afford it. We also did a monthly budget based on expenses if we were just solely living in the van or having our house and the van. We looked at different scenarios because, right now we're doing van life part-time, but that could change in the future. So we wanted to really understand what it was going to look like going forward and what our options would be and if we could afford it.
A bit of advice that I would give to you is have reasonable expectations. Know what your skill set is as far as building a van is concerned. Do you have lots of experience? Are you comfortable with using tools and making measurements, and or do you plan on hiring it out to someone who has that experience? So know what you're getting into.
I think it's important, if you're going to do van life, you have to be flexible and you have to learn how to manage stress because it can be really stressful. Like the build can be really stressful, even traveling sometimes. And that's actually one of the other things we had on our list is, trying to do what you can to avoid stress. Like you talked about where you park.
Right. One of the big stressors for me is not knowing, or I should say one of the big stresses for me would be not knowing where you're going to park for that night. So if I know that, okay, wherever we're at, there is at least a Cracker Barrel nearby that can be, if nothing else, an option.
Right.
That takes that stress off the table. And we may find during the course of the day, we find a different spot that,
Right.
and that happened during our last trip where we scrapped the Cracker Barrel plan and
Right.
we do this other thing.
And I think minimizing the stress is important too when there's two of you, not just, you doing your own thing in van life, because when you get stressed, you can get testy or difficult. So obviously we want our relationship to stay healthy too. So it's kind of knowing trigger things and what to avoid. Like you don't want to wait till the last minute, 10 o'clock at night when you're exhausted from traveling around and you're trying to find a place to sleep. And it's only you're going to be stressed with each other, the situation. I think, Steve talked about getting good sleep. If you get overtired because you're not sleeping well, that's going to add to stress and being testy or whatever. Don't allow yourself to get hangry. it's not good when you're hungry and tired and not feeling good. Like, you know, it's best just to kind of avoid that. You know, have snacks and make sure you eat and whatever. Because, I mean, in a small space like that, that can compound things. I think we do pretty well usually at mitigating that. But every once in a while, I'll admit, I get kind of so
I know I do. We talked about having a place to stay. Also, I think it's important to have an exit strategy. Even if you are in a Cracker Barrel, it's in a beautiful spot. You know, you're never guaranteed of anything in life. So even if you feel secure in a spot, you know, if something goes sideways on you, how are you going to get out of that situation? So having that plan in the back of your mind is always a good thing. So for us, that means having our keys handy and nearby. We have a key fob that has a alarm thing that will sound the horn. I'm sure, you know, that's pretty standard nowadays with vehicles. Having that nearby, so if someone starts goofing around with your van or tries to break in, you know, that's maybe your first line of defense, is to get that horn blaring. That might scare off, you know, the trouble. Or worst case scenario, if and this could happen anytime, anywhere, you start to, you know, you get unwanted attention, or, you know, you don't feel comfortable, is you literally jump in your van and you drive away from the situation. Right. That's one of the beautiful things about van life, is it gives you that option to do it.
Right.
Whereas tent camping, you know,
or RV or trailer.
You know, yeah, if you're set up and, you know, if you're in a huge RV and you got your slide outs out and your levelers down, whatever they're called, you know, it's not quite as easy just to pull up your stakes and go. And we've even talked, like, if we're set up somewhere and let's say we're cooking outside on our little fold-out table, and all of a sudden, you know, we get some people there that, you know, we get a sense that they're up to no good.
Or a bear comes charging.
Or, yeah, wildlife, of just saying, look, we're going to the point that we will leave whatever might be out and about in the van, and we're just going to leave. And if we have to leave it forever, whatever. I mean, it's just a few things, or, you know, maybe you can circle back around and pick it up later, but whatever. It's just having that plan so you're on the same page. You can communicate quickly and effective to say, let's get out of here, we got to go right now, and you get yourself safe. So having that plan can help limit potential stress.
So we make sure to always know where the keys are, and when we go to bed at night, they're always right by the bed. I think that's pretty important.
Right.
You don't want to lose your keys. We were talking about unreasonable expectations, and I think it's important to, you know, and other people talk about this. Instagram and social media makes it all look, you know, you see the glamour shots, the perfect van, whatever. We've tried to kind of be real. That's why we did the van tour like halfway through to show, oh, our van actually kind of looks like crap right now. You can see exposed metal and metal marks in the metal and tape and whatever.
Right.
But we still have a nice experience. So I think you just need to realize, I mean, maybe for you it might be all perfect if you have somebody build it out and whatever, but it's not always going to be perfect if you're doing it all yourself and you're trying to keep your costs low. And it's just all about balance and trying to kind of keep a mindset where you know, you're not hard on yourselves or each other.
I think we mentioned it. We mentioned it early. It's just being realistic. As people now who are a year into it, and we are, I don't know, what would you say, 70% done?
60? I don't know.
Somewhere in that neighborhood.
60,
It's easy to look at some other YouTube, you know, tutorials and say, man, those people really knew what they were doing and everything looks so sharp. It's real easy to get kind of beat yourself up, I guess is the best way to say it. But realize one thing, you know, they may have a different skill set than you. Another thing is they're only showing you part of it. Possibly. They're not showing you the frustrations and the mistakes they may have made.
And a lot of times we don't. I mean, we try to show what goes wrong, but there's a lot that we're not capturing all the time. And
just realize, you know, even with this video, we're only showing you certain things. We've got the camera framed in a certain way because we don't want to reveal something else that is just off to my left here that we want to show you. We want to show you later. So just keep all of that in mind. You know, take everything with a grain of salt. Be easy on yourself. Give yourself the time to learn and research and grow.
Be forgiving of each other.
You know, yeah, and if you're not comfortable with tools and that type of thing, become comfortable with those tools. You know, go build.
Get help.
Yeah, go build a little birdhouse. Seriously, you know, go do something else that at least you're getting comfortable with those tools, so that when you get the van, you're a little more comfortable with it. You know, that type of thing.
When we bought the van, I thought we'd have the build done within a few months. We're going to probably talk more about the actual build process and everything in another episode. We just don't have time here. But I had this certain mindset, and then that's changed a lot. And now I'm happy. I'm glad that we took time to travel and didn't finish the build out right away. And I think that's now what I would actually recommend to other people, right? To take your time to kind of travel and get a feel for your van and your preferences, because everybody's different. Like, you might see, like, oh, all these people are building out their van in this way, and we got to do this. But you find that maybe you don't need to do that. So that's what I would recommend, is taking your time and, you know, just not hurrying things up. Use it a little bit and find out what works, what doesn't, what you need, and kind of...
I was a little bit different. I didn't necessarily have a timeline or a deadline of saying, okay, we have to be done with it. It would have been nice to be done with it, you know, 3 months or whatever, but in hindsight, I'm glad we didn't. I'm glad we took the time. I'm glad we've taken a few trips with the van in various states of build, because it gives you that opportunity to say, you know what, we really don't need plan A. We can, in fact, plan B is much better, whatever it may be, that little thing you thought you were going to need.
Right.
So yeah, for me, that it's been good to be able to take the time, and again to learn and grow. If you've been tracking with us, or if you go back and watch our other videos, you know, hopefully we've done a good job of demonstrating some realistic things of van build, where nothing is straight, nothing seems level, nothing's plumb. You've got all these different angles and bump outs and little protrusions that you got to build around and account for, especially if you're trying to, you know, utilize every square inch of space. It can be daunting, and just so you know, I don't consider myself a master carpenter by any stretch of the imagination. I've had some experience with these tools over my life, but I mean, nothing. I mean, trust me, there are guys out there that could do laps around me. But you keep watching videos, you keep trying to learn things, you try to keep, you know, work within your skill set, you work within the tools you have available, and you just make it work.
And you have fun.
Yeah, it's a long-winded way of saying you'll figure it out, and just keep plugging away. And there's many times where I've especially at the end of the day, and I'm exhausted, I'm like, oh, I don't know how we're going to do this. And one of my favorite sayings as of late is baby steps. Like, there are days when I cut one piece of wood, and I'm not exaggerating. You get one piece of wood cut and maybe installed, and that's a good day. But because you took that little baby step, that one little piece of wood, you see what the next step needs to be. So the next day you tackle that step. And
some days you do a lot more than one piece of wood.
Right. Some days you'll have better, more productive days. But anyway.
But I think when it comes down to it, we just remind each other when we do start to get stressed or overwhelmed or discouraged. It's important to have fun, enjoy it. Like, what a wonderful opportunity to have a van and to be able to travel and explore and enjoy it. So if it's something you're considering, we say do it. We are always telling people, you know, try it. It's awesome. We love it.
Right.
So if you have any questions at all, we would be happy to answer. We love sharing our experiences with others.
So that pretty much wraps up the topic of this video. I'm sure it's probably a little bit longer of a video, so if you've made it this far, thanks for watching. We want to say a huge thank you for everyone who has been tracking with us throughout this journey. Your subscriptions mean a lot to us, and we're trying to, it's kind of a twofold thing we're doing here. We're building out the van, and we're also trying to build up a YouTube channel around the van. So your subscriptions mean a lot to us. We definitely appreciate each and every one of you. One of the best ways that you can further help us, if you've already subscribed, is to comment below. It helps.
And to hit like, I think, also.
Yeah, all those things help with the YouTube algorithm. It helps put our video in front of perhaps some other people that might be interested in van life. So thank you again from the bottom of our hearts for your subscriptions, for watching the videos.
Encouraging us, yeah.
Yeah.
We love hearing from you guys, whether we know you or not. We really love getting to know some of the people. I mean, there have been people who have been commenting on our videos for quite a while now, and we have no idea who you are.
Yeah, we've never met you, and we love,
we
love it. As far as the growing the YouTube channel side of things goes, it really puts gas in our tank to hear your comments.
We get excited when we see the little red notification that we've got a comment.
Right. And for those that have been commenting for a while, we love hearing from you. We love seeing, oh, it's so and so. They're commenting again. You start to kind of form this relationship, and it's fun. Thank you for doing that.
So if you've been watching and you haven't commented yet, we'd love if you would consider it. Just let us know maybe how you found out about us, where you're from, why you're watching, like if you're just interested in van life, or if you have a van you're starting to build, and if there's anything you'd like us to talk about in the future or share. We just love hearing from you, so that would be awesome. We want to take time to thank some particular people. As we mentioned, there's some who have been following along, some we have no idea who you are, but we want to say thank you. So we made a list of people who have been kind of commenting on a regular basis, and that really encourages us, and it's nice. This first one in particular, I think they're on the West Coast, so their comment is usually there first thing when we get up in the morning, and that's always nice. So the first one is Born and Raised PNW.
Meg Souter,
Sue Masonheimer,
Deb Berkebile,
Eula Traveler,
Darren Souter,
Charles Moman,
Christina Williams,
Givy and Mila,
Kay Loves S,
Stephen Gerald,
Trisha Goodman,
Brent and Karen Reel,
Craig E,
Victor Kiln,
Monique,
and Sarah Lee Hoover. So thank you guys so much. And we have a few other names. We have some friends who have really been instrumental in helping us as we got the van, who've lent us tools, or given us materials that they just had in their garage. So we appreciate that immensely.
So a big, huge shout out to Meg and Darren Souter. We mentioned them just as one of the commenters.
Darren spent months looking for the van for us.
Darren has a used car lot, and we highly recommend, if you are out looking for vans, or any vehicle for that matter, give Darren a shout. He worked with us a long time, and he had a lot of patience working with us because we weren't sure what we were doing, and a lot of a long story there, but he was great in working with us.
Yeah, and he can find vans. He looks at auctions, so if you're having a hard time finding a van, he may be able to help you. We can give you his contact information, but we know that he's trustworthy, and that's super important to us. And then some others.
Bree and Peter.
Tools.
Yeah. Peter has loaned me his miter saw. I've had it for quite some time now, so thank you.
You've seen it a lot in our videos.
Yeah.
It's not ours.
It's not ours, and it's what a great tool to have.
And then we have used Judd's Craig pocket
hole
drill, whatever that's called.
That's a very handy tool.
And then Gladys has let us use her table saw. And then some materials that some people have shared with us. Jim and Shirley brought us a whole mess of materials that we have used a lot so far in the build. Some Luan, some nice wood, different things. And then Courtney and Jesse, we actually got all the pallets from them to do all of our walls. So thankful. The people that have been helpful and encouraged us. We've also got other family members who have been encouraging, but we wanted to at least make comments about those who have actually commented, and especially those people that we don't know. So it's
Right.
we just really appreciate it. And we look forward to sharing with you more as we continue to build out the van and to travel more in the coming year. We're taking our own advice and we're making sure we're not hangry. We got a little treat for ourselves from Little Caesars. We are trying the pretzel crust pizza. Actually, looks pretty good. So we're gonna have some lunch and look at the water. It's a crazy windy day out there.